Overconsumption is killing creativity. Have you ever had a moment where you stop and you feel like there's something more, something missing in your life? You feel like you should be obtaining some other level of something. You feel unfulfilled, maybe stuck, lost. If you've experienced any of those things as I have, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Carl. I help others start their creative journey here on YouTube. So in this video, we're going to look at 4 areas in regards to overconsumption. So the first section is going to be what overconsumption is, how do we identify that? The second section is going to be about why it's important to find a balance between consuming, being the consumer, and creating, being a creator. The third section is going to be about where do you start on a creative journey. And then the fourth section, well, that's going to be about what to do next. Overconsuming, what is that exactly? It's pretty much a given. Anyone that's sort of thinking about it once I've seen the heading of this video will immediately shoot towards social media, right? And you're the same. You know that we're guilty of doom scrolling, checking our messages throughout the day, checking our feeds on various social media platforms. We finish work, we go home, and between our obligations in home, we'll doom scroll some more, we'll find a streaming platform and watch something and go to sleep. That's it, rinse and repeat every day. Now, you might be someone like me that has next to no available time outside of work and family. With what little time I have, it's not a bad thing that I just consume a movie or a bit of social media before sleep. But it's not about how much time you spend consuming. It's the fact that it's not counterbalanced with any form of creativity. Right? That, without creativity, all forms of consuming is overconsumption. I'll explain. Step 2. Okay, why is there such an importance on this balance that I'm talking about between consumption and creation? Again, it's simple, but it may not be at the forefront of your mind, all right? Because of just how chaotic and busy life has become, and the way society really only pushes the consumer aspect at all of us. It's not focusing on the creative aspect, so to speak. But the importance behind needing that balance, the importance behind that balance lies innately within us. Right? Humans are wired that way. We are a creative species, right? That's what differentiates us between all other species on the planet. We love to invent, to create something of our own. We're actually hardwired to want to create and to invent. It's in our human DNA. We're a species different from all other species on our planet because of that. We like to invent things, create things that are our own. And when we do, we feel that level of fulfillment. We no longer feel lost, and we've found that thing that was missing. It's very important for us to have a creative element as part of our life. And so even if you have a little bit of time left in a day and you only spend it on consuming and you're not creating anything, that's why you can still feel that level of imbalance. Something's not quite right. Now, this is where the fun really begins. Okay, so you're kind of wondering, okay, so where do I start? I hear what you're saying. I'd like to try and find that missing element. How do I create? Where do I start? We start right here at the campfire, as I call it. Okay, so I think of YouTube as the campfire. Bear with me, okay? It's It's a unique way of looking at it, but I like viewing it this way. It's a real warming way to look at YouTube. Okay, so if we go, it's not a history lesson, but if we go back ages past, back to the horse and cart, right? When traveling from a point A to B took a considerable amount of time, and you would have to pull over, spend nights camping with a campfire, and there may be a group of you, a couple of carts that set up fire. You may also have a complete stranger who's going in the opposite direction, asks to share your fire. Of course, you'll accept. And then you're all around this fire, and if you're lucky enough, someone pulls out a guitar, or starts a song, starts a tune somehow. Might start a rhythm just by tapping their foot or banging a stump. All of a sudden, pretty much everyone there is singing. If they're not singing, they're humming along, if they don't know the words. And if they're silent, they're still enjoying the whole campfire scenario. They just might be looking at the stars, or they might be staring into the embers of the fire. But that campfire is all about losing your inhibitions. You lose your anxiety. And it's not just because someone might be singing around the campfire. Someone who's an artist may share their sketches of their journey, some landmarks, a sunset or a sunrise. Children may run through with their paintings as a bit of competition going, mine's better than that. From art, you could have people that are in the midst of writing their memoir. So they share a section, a page, a chapter. A poet shares some poetry. And then amongst that, you've got a cook that's tending to mutton over the fire or whatever, some roast veggies in a pan, spiced, and the smell of that. Can you smell it? It's amazing. Everyone's jovial, happy. When they're not singing, they're laughing. Someone brings jokes to the fire, right? If they're funny, you laugh. If they're not funny, you still laugh, right? Now, each one of those people sitting around that fire that sheds their inhibitions to just share whatever they like creating, they don't have to be the best at anything. They're not the best at anything, but they love what they do. And they like to share it because they know that they like having others share with them what they've created. That's the balance. That's what's important. That's what we've lost currently in society to a large degree. It's become heavy in the consume space and not the create space. That's what you're missing. That ring of people around that fire, that represents the people, the community of YouTube, right? Both in a larger scenario and a smaller one. And by that I mean all of YouTube is one large campfire where people with various degrees of skill, interests, whatever, they bring it to this platform. And then at a smaller level, you can go out and find your campfire, your tribe, a collective group of people that have very similar interests. That's also a campfire. And each one of those people creating around the campfire, that's a creator on YouTube. That's why I call it the modern day campfire. It is, it's a global one. And it's there for you and me to share. I've already started my campfire and I'll keep coming back to it at least 3 days a week, more if I can. But it's a great feeling. I don't need to be the best videographer. I don't need to be the best scripter. In fact, I don't use scripts. I just use a few bullet points. My notes are currently down here in front of me. I don't have the best equipment. I've got a $10 tripod, my phone, which is some expense, but everyone's got a phone nowadays. A cheap $40 mic should get me out of trouble. The scene and the setting, wow, it's priceless. So where you start is here on YouTube. In my opinion, there's no better place to start. I know what you're saying. If you've got the skill to create something at a hard copy level, I guess, for want of a better word, like that you actually can make something. So let's say, for instance, you actually have the skill set to build guitars, right? Very niche skill set, but awesome if you can do it. And I would encourage you to still go away and do that. You need that creative space. Find time to chip away at that, right? And then when you've fine-tuned your art and you've got that set up and sorted, come back to the campfire. Come back to YouTube. Share your journey. Share your knowledge with those around your campfire, your tribe. No better feeling. And for those of us, let's say, for instance, guitar building or music or guitars or guitar music, whatever it is something you're passionate about, but you can't play an instrument, you can't sing, can't make guitars. I can't do any of that, but I love music. YouTube gives you that ability to be able to bring that passion, change the viewpoints of that passion, and talk about it. So you might know a lot about guitar building, the different types of timber that can be used, the tones behind that wood, why it's like that. You might love it so much you just cannot build it. But that wealth of knowledge, you can still bring it to us. You can still bring it to me and share it. All right? And there will be an audience just for that here. You know, on a planet of 8 billion plus people and growing exponentially, your growth here on YouTube can grow exponentially. There are people waiting for whatever it is you want to dabble in. And you know what? Even if you don't know where you want to start, this is still the place to be. If you don't know what your niche is, so niche being your topic or your genre, whatever it is you want to talk about, you don't know that yet. Who cares? Start anyway. Just treat it as a trial period, a test. Because even though if you don't know what you're really going to want to talk about long term, you still get to learn the basics. You still get a feel for everything, which is actually going to bring me into step 4. Okay. Step 4 is where to from now, or what now, what next. So what next? So let's say you don't have a YouTube account set up yet, right? No one needs a YouTube account to be able to view YouTube. So that's what you're going to do next. You're going to go and find your content creators of choice. No more than sort of 5 or 6. You're going to find people that really interest you, and ideally find 5 or 6 that interest you in different ways. There's something about their channel, their videos, that you love, but for different reasons. Yeah, you love them for different reasons. So for example, I follow 3 at the moment. Well, there's a 4th one I think I'm about to start following fairly well as well. But 3 for me is enough. I'm lucky enough to have found 3. One I've sort of been watching on and off for years. He's been around for a long time. But it's not about who, it's about what. All right. What I get from them is very different. So I take from a couple of those, so from 2 of them, I take their overall scene settings, down to earth vibes and approach. All right. From one of them, I take inspiration from their different types of, I guess, footage, if you want to call it that, or editing. Okay. From another one, I take their business approach to YouTube, but only elements of. I'm someone that's going to be treating this like a business purely for its structure, but I'm loving this already. And so it's an interest and it's a passion, so it's a hobby, right? I take a little bit from each of those 3 different channels. Why only 3 though? It's because I don't want to get lost. All right. If I find channels that I'm so strongly aligned with, I don't want to keep adding to that. I want to drill into those ones more. So that's what you do next. You go and find, I guess, your campfire or campfires to go and sit at, share those stories, take from those campfire moments what you'd love to try and put into your own creation. Right. You don't need to be great at filming. I'm definitely not. This is my first time. I'm of an age and an era where talking to you right now, this doesn't come naturally normally, but I'm learning a different method to make that natural, which is actually something I'm going to share in another video. So I'll share a link right at the end of the video. But yeah, so take elements away so that when you go to, if you're like me and you're just going to use bullet points instead of a script, write your bullet points, and then on the side just jot down what it is that you like about each of those channels that you've subscribed to, that you watch. All right, so it might be you love the setting, so then you start canvassing your area to find something similar that you like. All right, I love the outdoors. This is an excuse for me to get away from either work and or home, only for like no more than an hour, but I love this and I need it, you know. So I love doing what I'm doing on YouTube, and I love this environment. So that's one thing you can take, but not everyone wants to be outdoors. You might want the flexibility of using a work office or something like that inside, and that's perfectly fine. You might be in a genre where it's tech savvy, so you might need the lights and everything else going on. That's perfectly brilliant, in my opinion. But just take these little bits, take those notes, and try and remind yourself to just give them a crack in the midst of your own videos. All right? You may find that some of them work, some of them don't. It's just, it's bound to happen. You may realize that you love that, you love watching that, consuming that, but it doesn't come across naturally for you to create. See, I love that too. The key advice for step 4 is do not clone, make it your own. Okay? So you just take little facets of it, whether it's a tip, a tool, a part of that niche you like, part of their delivery you like, the setting you like, their style, their recording style, whatever it is, just give them a crack, give them a try. Your uniqueness and what makes you will shine through that. Okay? But don't just outright try to clone somebody. That won't work. That's not you. And even if you can perfect it and pull it off and get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views by cloning somebody, that's not about you. You won't feel good about that in the end. You'll still feel unfulfilled. It's got to be all about you. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. I hugely appreciate your time and for joining me. This sort of setting is actually new for me, so and I'm loving it. And so I'd love to hear your comments on this sort of situation, and whether you love the whole campfire analogy and want to join my campfire in the future. I'd love to hear some feedback about that. I'm going to leave you with 2 options for videos. Okay, so up here I'll put up a video that will be a guide in regards to starting a channel from scratch, like a YouTube channel from scratch for those that are complete novices. And up here I'm going to, which I alluded to earlier in the middle of that video, I'll give you a link to my next video, which is, it's the most important piece of advice when it comes to recording. Okay, and I'm going to give you that. It's going to be right there for you next. Okay, so you can view that there if you're pretty confident with how you're going with the setup of a channel. And no matter what you end up doing and where you end up going, if you find yourself wanting to come back here to my campfire, you're always welcome anytime. And yeah, if I can, you can. Bye for now.